Hi, everyone, and peace be upon you all. Hope you're doing fine in this era of pandemic. This is Contemporary Understanding the Quran. My name is Marwan Rad, and we are in the process of reading Surah Al-Baqarah, and we've reached verse number 230, 230. So we read together. The verses were about divorce in general, and then God is giving us more detail about it. And if you recall, in Islam, divorce is permissible only twice. Only twice. If you divorce your wife, first time, you can come back or you can get back together. Okay. If you divorce her the second time, okay, you cannot come back together after 2 times. You can come back together the second time, but you cannot come back together like the third time, as it is wrongfully known or wrongfully exercised or whatever. It's twice. And the verse now that I'm going to read, 230, confirm and affirms what I'm talking about. So if a husband divorces his wife irrevocably, without no return, that's it, he cannot after that remarry her until after she has married another husband and he has divorced her. Remember, twice. 2 times, okay, but you cannot divorce her the third time, okay? You cannot divorce her 3 times. But if you want to remarry her after, she had to marry someone else, which is very intimidating to both of them. This is why God has put this limit and ordained this rule, so man and woman can restrain from going both each to extremes and pull until they divorce to the end of the tension and so on, which is very important, and it has some morality in it, and some, well, I may say, some good attitude towards one the other. They should consider and reconsider. So in that case, there is no blame on either of them if they reunite, which means after she marry another man and that man divorces her, she can come back to her first husband, or her husband can take her back, or sense, not before, provided they feel that they can keep the limits ordained by Allah, which means not to repeat the same mistake, I should call, or the same, bad thing once again. Such are the limits ordained by Allah, which He may explain to those who understand. And these are the rules and the limits, which mean the extreme in between which people can deal with each other, which means minimum and maximum. I mean, you can divorce her once, divorcing her twice or even 3 times. I mean, this is crazy. When you divorce women and they fulfill the term of their iddah, which means period, and I'm going to explain that, either take them back on equitable terms or set them free on equitable terms, but do not take them back to injure them or to take undue advantage. If anyone does that, he wrongs his own soul. Now, should you divorce your woman, okay, those divorcee should complete what we call a period, a period of time, after which, if ever she is pregnant from her husband, then it will be known within the 3 months. This is the iddah. The period is 3 months. Okay, during the 3 months, it will be known if she is pregnant or not. If she's pregnant, then she loses the menstruation period, the monthly period, and to make sure it is really a pregnancy, we have to wait 3 months. And the reason why is because in the first month, I mean, 1 month after, the woman would have, some sense of that period, and that period uh, is getting rid of some residue of the sperm of the husband. In the second month as well, in 3 months, the woman gets rid of all the residue of him. Then it'll be like purely, the embryo is purely, defined whether his or not, in case if she's pregnant. And if anyone does not respect, I mean, no, I mean, the idda is okay, we explain it, but if ever you want to separate on good terms, on equitable terms, in the sense of bil ma'ruf, which means in good, and be good towards one the other, and don't have that hostility or animosity or whatever. And whoever, contradict this, he'll be wrongdoing, and he will be hurting himself or herself, depends. Do not treat Allah's sign as a jest, but solemnly rehearse Allah's favors on you, and the fact that He sent down to you the book and wisdom for your instruction. And fear Allah and know that Allah is well acquainted with all things. Now, definitely, this is addressed to Muhammad, and it's revealed to him, and Muhammad is revealing this to us, in the sense that this is, let's say, to everybody. So which means don't take those limits or those signs of Allah as a joke. This is serious, man. This is rules. This is laws. This is related to humanity, in the sense of organizing, of regulating, of adjusting things of the life. So don't take it lightly, okay? And remember that God has, God has the graciousness to offer to you here and there, and sent you the wisdom, the book, and the verses to guide you in life, and so on. And be pious and be thankful and grateful to Allah, because Allah knows everything. You cannot hide anything from Him. When you divorce women and they fulfill the term of their iddah, do not prevent them from marrying their former husbands if they mutually agree on equitable terms. This instruction is for all amongst you who believe in Allah and the last day. That is the course making for most virtue and purity amongst you, and Allah knows and you know not. Now, this is concerning the one that cannot remarry his wife or his ex-wife, but after she has married someone else. Now, once she married that someone else, okay, and the first husband always wanted her back, then she has to be divorced from the new husband. So this divorce should be mutually agreed between them, because it can happen that the second husband would refuse, say, hey, and it happened, and we hear stories like, oh, I don't want to divorce you, and then she's stuck. She cannot live with this guy because she only married him to get remarried by her first husband, okay? and her first husband cannot have her back because she's still married. I mean, it's kind of puzzling, and it's a puzzle, so we have to be careful. And this is why, and this is one or the reason why God made it that complicated, so you can think twice, even 10 times before you say, I divorce you, whether the man tells his wife or the wife asks her husband to divorce her, and so on. You have to think twice and even more, because unless you don't want to follow the guidance of Allah. And this is how you, I mean, by following this is how you prove that you are, you have a good spirit, you have a good heart, you have a, all the good and a good attitude in general. Now, well, once you divorced your wife, okay, 1 second. Once you divorce your wife and your wife is a mother of your child, now there's another kind of details and rules for this situation. The mothers shall give suck to their offspring for 2 whole years if the father desires to complete the term, which means the baby needs 2 years of motherhood, if I may say. So the husband may agree or may not. If the husband agree, fine, okay, and he can allow to the mother to complete those 2 years. But if he does not want that, out of rancune, as we say, but he shall bear the cost of their food and clothing on equitable terms, which means he has to give the mother what we call alimony, in the sense of she needs to support herself and the baby. Okay, no soul shall have a burden laid on it greater than it can bear, which means as much as you can, you have to. Which means if you earn $1,000 a month and you cannot give your ex-wife, now that she became your ex-wife, let's say for herself and for your baby, more than, let's say, I don't know, $200, $300, $400, whatever. Okay, this is the law of Allah. You can, which means out of goodwill, you have to give enough to your wife so she can support herself and your baby. Nowadays, there are laws here and there, and judges, and they decide how much you can, of course, according to cost of living and many other details. So no mother shall be treated unfairly on account of her child, nor a father on account of his child, which means you don't take the child as a mean to hurt one another. You have to be equitable. You have to be good. You have to be fair with one another, even though in situations like divorce, which is not the case. Humans are anyway are different. Okay. And heir shall be chargeable in the same way if they both decide on weaning by mutual consent, and after due consultation, there is no blame on them. Now, should the father, let's say, die, okay, the father of the baby died, and let's say he has an older son. That older son is the heir of the deceased man, okay? Now, this heir should do exactly what the father must have done in order to fulfill let's say, the alimony or whatever is needed to support the wife and the baby. There is no blame on them. Now, if you decide on a foster mother for your offspring, there is no blame on you, provided you pay the mother what you offered on equitable terms. But fear Allah and know that Allah sees well that you do. Now, out of anger, out of bad terms together, the father would probably would refuse to let the mother feed the baby or keep the baby with her in 2 years. In this case, he should pay the mother some compensation, alimony, and then he should assign or accept both somehow to assign somebody to feed the baby during this time, and he should support all the cost for this. And you should do this out of fear of Allah, because Allah knows what you do. Okay, now a situation where if any of you die and leave widows behind, they shall wait concerning themselves 4 months and 10 days. When they have fulfilled their term, there is no blame on you if they dispose of themselves in a just and reasonable manner. And Allah is well acquainted with what you do. This is a situation where if a husband, if the man died, then the widowed woman should wait 4 months and 10 days before she can remarry. Now, the possibility is that she might be pregnant, but the pregnancy in the case of a widow is, as you notice, or as you will notice now, is not the same in the case as the divorcee. In the case of divorcee, remember we said 3 months, the period that she had to wait before remarry. Okay, 3 months. Now in the case of the widow is 4 months and 10 days, and there's a wisdom behind this. In the case of divorcee, there's a wisdom, as I said, if she's pregnant, when the woman senses the menstruation period in the first month, after being pregnant, to get rid of to purify, let's say, or if I may even better say that the residue of the sperm of, or whatever genetic of the husband will remain like 3 periods until it vanishes or it disappears or whatever. So after those 3 months, okay, the divorcee, then she can remarry another man, because if ever she marries before, scientifically, and this has been proven, the new husband's, let's say, sperm would not be 100% the sperm which is going to join the ovary of the woman. Some residue of the first husband will be there, and then it's some kind of a problem. So there's a wisdom behind it, and God all-knowing, and science has discovered and approved this, and it is a fact now. This is in the case of divorcee. In the case of the widow, why it's 4 months and 10 days? Because the same issue of the residue of the man in the case of the widow, because of the sentimental situation, because of the sorrow that she might suffer and the hard time that she might encounter out of the loss of her husband, this will affect her even longer. So 4 months and 10 days are needed, and it is scientifically proven. And one scientist, doctor, converted to Islam because of this once he realized that this is really what the Quran, what Allah says, and it's a fact that it's happening this way. And it happened with him. He tested, his wife's sample of the womb liquid or ovary or the period, the menstruation period, and he found out that there are 3 kinds of, let's say, residue, masculine residue, which means she was betraying him with at least 2 men. Of course, he divorced her, he converted to Islam. Well, this is a story, it's a real one. I can't remember the name of the scientist or the doctor, scientist or something, but it is happening. Whoever wants to make sure he can find out. He or she can find out. Anyway, where we are now, there is no blame on you if you make an indirect offer of betrothal or hold it in your hearts. Allah knows that you cherish them in your heart, but do not make a secret contract with them, except that you speak to them in terms honorable, nor resolve on the tie of marriage till the term prescribed is fulfilled. And know that Allah knows what is in your hearts, and take heed of Him, and know that Allah is oft forgiving, most forbearing. Now, this is when one wants to make a relation with, when a man wants to make a relation with a woman. There are kind of first step, second step, and the what we call the period of fiancé or fiançailles in French, and then period to know each other well, and then probably the contract of marriage, and then living together and so on. So these are explained in some way here, whereby where God is advising actually man not to do things in the sense of otherwise, like in secret, like in a not in an unapproved way, which means like stealing something, like sneaking around to. But nowadays everyone actually does and keep on doing this. I mean, it's a human nature, but nevertheless, it is the rule that you should get to a fiancé period first, and then get to know each other, and then the contract of marriage, and then live together. If I may call it a traditional, or classical or traditional way. And this is how you have to follow this rule, and say like obeying God, and God is all forgiving, in the sense if you make a mistake or you lapse here or there. Again, there is no blame on you if you divorce women before consummation of the fixation of their dower, which means you assign something as a gift to the wife once you marry her, like say a dot or a gift or any amount or any precious thing or valuable, whatever. Now, should you change your mind after that, then you have to leave half of what you already assigned to her as a compensation. Okay? unless I'll continue the verse and then I explain. So, and if you divorce them before consummation, but after the fixation, no, the first one before. There is no blame on you if you divorce women before consummation or the fixation of their dower. There's no blame. It's okay. You can do that. But bestow on them a suitable gift. Okay? Which means a compensation in this sense. The wealthy according to his means and the poor according to his means. Whatever you can afford. A gift of a reasonable amount is due for those who wish to do the right thing. Now, you're not obliged 100%, but it's kind of a compensation. Now, and if you divorce them before consummation, but after the fixation of a doer, which means if you divorce them after you already fixed something to them or assigned something to them or after you gave them something, then that dower is kind of become a right or a property to the woman for them. Then the half of the dower is due to them. In this case, you have to leave the half of what you assigned or gave to them as a compensation, and you can take back the other half, unless they remit it. Now, it can happen that the woman, she doesn't want her. She wants to get rid of her. So, hey, take everything. I don't want you. I don't want your gift. I don't want you. It can happen, But if not like this, then you're only entitled of half of what you gave already. Or the man's half, or even the other way around, is remitted by him in whose hands the marriage is the marriage tie, which means the other way around as well. The man can ask from the wife who's divorcing her. He can ask half of it. And here is a sign. I would stop for a few seconds to say that it's a proof and it's a sign that not just man who has the right to divorce, even women can ask for divorce, because it's known wrongfully in Islam that the man holds the tie to or the right to divorce, and the woman has no such right. It's not true, and this verse confirms exactly that. I'm gonna reread it, so please listen to it carefully. And if you divorce them before consummation, but after the fixation of a dower for them, then the half of the dower is due to them unless they remit it, which means she had to consent. She had to consent to remit that gift or the dower or whatever. Okay, remitted by him in whose hands the marriage tie. Now, whose hands is the marriage tie? Could be either man or the woman. And God is clear on this, is either one of them can, let's say, hold or execute or ask for the divorce. So equally, I would say. And the remission of the man's half is the nearest to righteousness, which is closest to be fair. And do not forget liberality between yourselves, for Allah sees well all that you do. Which means, don't forget that you knew her or you knew each other for a certain period. So at least be good towards one another. You've opened your hearts, both of you, one to the other. So forget about any such how may I say animosity or any such rejection, just out of anger or out of vindication or anything. And do not, for Allah sees well all that you do. And Allah knows and sees, so you'll be you'll be judged probably for, not probably, you'll be judged according to what you did. So better do it right. So, you know, continue. Guard strictly your habit of prayer. Now we're done with the divorce issue. This verse, God is telling us, guard strictly your habit of prayers, especially the middle prayer, and stand before Allah in a devout frame of mind. Reminding us, and don't forget to do your duty of prayer, and especially the middle one. The middle one is the one after noon, the afternoon, between noon and between the sunset, which is called in Arabic al-Asr, Salat al-Asr. Especially this one, maybe because, I don't know, I find no reason. God is saying, especially this one, probably because it's an indication between last period of the day and middle of the day or something like that. Okay. And when you do the prayer, yeah, do it with a devotion. If you fear an enemy, pray on foot or riding as may be most convenient. But when you are in security, celebrate Allah's praises in the manner He has taught you, which you knew not before. Which means, I mean, in that time, that is for that time in particular, but probably we can apply it nowadays in certain circumstances, yes. But in general, that is for that time in the sense that if you fear an enemy while you are somewhere in the open desert or in the open nature, someplace, and you fear an enemy while it's time for you to pray, then you can pray in without doing the whole gestures up and down and prostration and standing up and bowing and all this. Probably you can do it in a way that you can still be alert or alerted. Okay, so you can do it on foot or while riding on the horse. Myself, I did it many times while I'm driving a long way from Montreal to New York. Anyway, so it's a simplification of of the duty of praying or of anything, because God wants to give us or want to make things simple on us and not difficult at all. Okay. But when you are in security, but if you are okay, like if you're home, then you have to praise it and do it in the manner that God taught you through the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Those of you who die and leave widows should be bequeath for their widows a year's maintenance and residence. But if they leave the residence, there is no blame on you for what they do with themselves, provided it is reasonable and Allah is exalted in power. Why? Now, should you divorce your wife? No, I'm sorry. Those of you who die and leave a widow, no question of divorcing. So, if you leave a widow behind you, you should somehow have a certain provision for her, enough for 1 year as maintenance and residence, and cost of living and all this stuff. Especially if you have a child with her, etc. Now, if during this period of 1 year she decided to leave before, she doesn't want to be under your, let's say, protection or under your banner or whatever, she can do that, and you have no blame afterward to leave her to do what she wants, and with equitable term, in equitable term as well, with a reasonable manner, because Allah is all powerful and exalted in the same time, which means He can forgive you, but you shouldn't do something to hurt. Let her do what she wants. Now, for divorced women, maintenance should be provided on a reasonable scale. This is the duty of the righteous. Now, the same thing that was for the widow. Now, for the divorced woman, it should be compensated. It should be according to some understanding, to some reasonable terms, and so on. Which means, you have to be not wise. You have to be reasonable while doing this. And right, do it right. Thus does Allah make clear His signs to you in order that you may understand. And this is how Allah explained to you and show you and detail to you all these things so you can understand what you do, because maybe you'll be you'll be wondering, what should I do? What should I? This Allah is showing us the ways. Didst thou not turn by vision to those who abandoned their homes, though they were thousands in number, for fear of death? Allah said to them, die. Then He restored them to life. For Allah is full of bounty to mankind, but most of them are ungrateful. Now, this is an example of people who who go out, like who venture or travel or go out in a way to fear escaping, let's say, escaping death, then Allah can cause them to die and bring them back, which means you don't have to behave like this, actually, because death is certain. So do things normally and according to goodness, and because Allah would provide anything to you. Allah would provide anything and everything. But most of the people, they are not grateful, which is human nature as well. I'm going to read the last verse, I think. Then fight in the cause of Allah and know that Allah hears and knows all things. Which is a general fight in the cause of Allah, which means promote the cause of Allah, promote the religion of Allah, promote the values that Allah implied or asking us to follow, promote the goodness in life, the love, the tolerance, everything. This is all the cause of Allah. This is what Allah asks us to be and to do, actually, because Allah hears and knows everything, which means Allah is watching us. So, okay, I think I'm gonna stop here, unless I'm sorry. I'm gonna read another verse, which is verse number 245, because I indicated on the video that we'll be reading up to 245. The last verse is, who is he that will loan to Allah a beautiful loan, which Allah will double unto his credit and multiply many times? It is Allah that gives you want or plenty, and to him shall be your return. Allah is asking us or encouraging us, inviting us to give. Now, when we give the poor, when we give the needy, when we give the next of kin, when you can give 10 or 100 or whatever out of your heart, out of your with goodwill and so on, this Allah will consider as if you give it to Him, which means as a loan, and He will give you that back, that loan back, multiplied many times. So what kind of better business you need than this? it's mind-boggling. Of course, it's mind-boggling for those, who have the prudence of fear, for those who have relation with Allah. I think it's ultimately what they hope for. So now we stop at verse 245. I'm sorry, and I expect that you enjoyed this session and this episode for reading all those verses, rich of information, rich of detail, rich of guidance, and I really appreciate joining me, and thank you. See you soon.